When Valerie Bertinelli, the star of TV's hit sitcom One Day at a Time, married rock star Eddie Van Halen in the spring of 1981, they were both at the height of their careers. Van Halen was the founder of one of America's most popular rock bands, and Valerie's star power was in the ascendancy, when she won a second of 2 successive Golden Globe Awards for Best Supporting Actress on One Day at a Time. The first of Valerie's and Eddie's problems came by the way of his band's lead singer, the flamboyant David Lee Roth.
She messed up the democracy. It became that she was continually, whispering in Eddie's ear that he was the star of the band, that it wasn't about David, but that Eddie was the star, and without Eddie, there would be no Van Halen. And so this divide started.
A strutting, preening frontman on stage, behind the curtain, Roth was arrogant and controlling, and forbade the rest of the band members from inviting their wives and girlfriends backstage before performances. To avoid arguing with Roth, Valerie and Eddie shared stolen moments on their own. Alone and isolated from the rest of the group, Eddie was beginning to have second thoughts about Valerie.
Eddie buzzed me, and he came up to and he said, "Can I come up and hang out?" And we ended up sitting up all night and just talking about how the tour had gone and how the record was doing and just life. And around 4 or 5 in the morning, it devolved into this discussion that he felt he had made this terrible mistake and that he never should have married Valerie, and that it was going to ruin the band and it was going to ruin his life because they were just different. And it was really, I said, "Is it really that bad?" And he said, "Yeah, it's really that bad."
Adding to Valerie's personal problems, the mood on the One Day at a Time set began to deteriorate dramatically when cast member Mackenzie Phillips became addicted to cocaine.
It was bad times at that time. And I just felt so sorry for Mackenzie, what she was going through, because she just didn't have the strength.
She had a bohemian kind of upbringing with her, rock and roll family, and she enjoyed the drugs a little bit too much.
I wasn't with her through a lot of it. Some of it happened during the show, and I was with her, and I always supported her.
I mean, I was like really naive about a lot of things then.
Once Phillips' drug problems hit the press and her work started suffering, she was fired.
Mackenzie Phillips' drug issues had an interesting impact on Valerie Bertinelli. I think she, probably learned, don't want to go down that path, and probably had a reverse role model almost effect. Because I think she really did look up to Mackenzie in the beginning, as the big sister on the show, and probably a big sister in her life a bit.
With Mackenzie Phillips gone, Valerie had to step it up a notch, because now more of the plots were focused on Barbara with her sister out of the picture. And she did a great job and didn't complain about the additional workload.
And I think this really matured Val a lot, because she really had to take on that show, even though they brought in a few other characters in there.
Although Bertinelli, Bonnie Franklin, and Pat Harrington remained constant, the rest of the cast became a revolving door, changing almost seasonally. As old cast members left and new ones were added with confusing regularity, the show's ratings began to slip. And in 1984, after 9 seasons and 209 episodes, One Day at a Time was canceled. Although Valerie was sad to see the show end, she knew it had run its course. Her challenge now was finding a new direction for her career.
I think Valerie didn't quite know what to do with herself following One Day at a Time. I mean, she was, this young, perky ingenue, and then suddenly she's, okay, now what do I do? I can't be perky anymore because I'm, in my late 20s here, and I got to think of the next chapter.
Valerie began questioning some of the choices she made as a young actress. One Day at a Time had not prepared her for life after the show's cancellation, and all the insecurity she felt as a child came flooding back.
I look back now and think, gee, I would have liked to have studied other things, because I don't feel very book smart at times. And I try to get as much reading in as I can, but I can't hold an intellectual conversation with people at a party. So that's probably why I don't go to parties a lot, because I'm always afraid of my intellect showing. So I wish I had gone to college and and could have really studied and gotten into other things that I enjoy.
Valerie tried to make her way on the big screen, but movie producers could only see her as a small screen star. They were all anxious to have her audition, but the good roles always went to established movie stars, not TV actresses. In the end, she continued making television movies, but was determined to break her image as a lightweight, shifting her focus from comedy to more dramatic roles.
And she sort of carved a second career for herself after One Day at a Time went off the air, which is always tough when you're used to being a star of a hit TV show and the fame goes away. You wonder, are you going to be able to adapt to that next step? But she actually did a good job of trying to break out of that mold by doing a slew of TV movies. Shattered Vows, The Seduction of Gina were two of them.
Then she did a string of really bad ones, Women in Jeopardy, the usual, oh my God, Peril, Men Are Horrible, Look What They're Doing to Me movies.
I think she just saw this kind of role as being perfectly suited to who she was as an actress. She is so likable that she knew that as a woman in peril, the fans were really going to be rooting for her.
Her most famous role may have been that of Maxie Amberville, the lead character in the 1987 8-hour miniseries, I'll Take Manhattan, based on the best-selling Judith Krantz novel.
It was a pretty raunchy book, and the lead character who Valerie wanted to play was this kind of take-charge woman, both in the boardroom and the bedroom. And no one thought that Valerie could do it, but she fought for it, and she proved her critics wrong. She actually did a really great job in the role.
Over the years, Bertinelli starred in 2 major miniseries and over 24 television movies, a major accomplishment for any actor. By 1990, the 30-year-old Bertinelli was becoming recognized as a serious actress. But her marriage was suffering the consequences of hubby Van Halen's years on the road and rock and roll lifestyle. Once again, it was her marriage and not her career that was hitting the headlines. And once again, she was being upstaged by the aging rocker.